Welcome, everybody, to a taste of Talk to the Entities. Those brave people who have decided to join live, I really appreciate it because, without you here, who would I be talking to? But maybe a few ghosts. And, that's fun, but they already know. They already know they're ghosts and they're cool with it. What I'd like to do is maybe take a bit of the significance and fear out of this idea of communicating with spirits. I know that that's like the overriding thing that many people start with is like, oh, this is weird. This is creepy. I don't want to go here. And backing away from it doesn't make it go away. You just don't get to learn the tools to be able to handle the communication or the clearing, and you definitely don't get to receive. And with the spirit world in particular, it really helps you flex your receiving muscles more so than almost anything else I've discovered. And when we talk about receiving, a lot of people don't know what that means, but it's anything that you'd like to have, whether it's more money, more connections, relationship, friends, more ease. Having more is a receiving thing. And when we shut off certain areas of our life, it shuts off our receiving in all areas of our life. We cannot pick and choose. So we think we're just saying, oh no, I don't want to know about that one thing over there, but we're really shutting down. It's like shutting down the inflow of energy and contribution that we could be receiving. So just to start off, I'll give you a little bit of background of me and talk to the entities. I actually, when I was younger, realized that I could communicate with spirits. I had a friend who died, I think I was in college, and I did all kinds of weird spiritual meditation, breathing techniques, all kinds of stuff like that, just because I was a weird kid and into telepathy and things like that. And he came to me in one of my meditations and he was trying to communicate to me to help my brother. My brother and he were really good friends. And my brother went into kind of a downward spiral when he had a back injury. And like regular medication wasn't working. So he got into some heavy drugs and that kind of spiraled his life down. And so the first communication was our friend. And then afterwards, like a month later, my brother was in an accident and I communicated with him. And I thought that he was just having an out-of-body experience. He gave me this whole download of what had happened. He was on his motorcycle. He was going around a corner and a car came out from a parking place and there was a train on the other side and he had to like swerve to navigate and the car clipped his fender and he flew over his handlebars and that was funny. Zoom thinks I'm speaking Spanish. Anyway, his helmet flew off. He landed on his head and he flew out of his body, basically. And he looked back and he saw his bike and he saw the car and he saw his body. And he was like, oh my God, that's my body. He didn't feel any pain. He was just like sort of shocked in the whole thing. And he's like, how can I be talking to you? And we just had this long conversation. And I thought, oh, well, he's going to be fine. And so I flew home and found out that the moment that we were having this conversation and the download was when they took him off of life support. And for a few minutes, I was sad because I didn't get to see him, but he was so present with me. It was like he hadn't left. His body was no longer alive, but he was still there. And he was telling me all kinds of things, telling me things to tell my sister, telling me things to tell my mom. And they all thought I was crazy. That was really kind of fun, trying to tell them, well, Jeff is telling me, this is where his suit is. And pretty soon, I guess the information that I gave made my mom and my sister believe me, but the rest of the family, I couldn't even, because, talking to somebody who's dead, like, that's just not what you do. But I just kept it to myself and to those few people who I could get through their barriers. And it gave them such a different perspective and a sense of peace. I remember telling my sister something that only he would have said to her. And she just knew. And so she could relax. And part of the problem with the communication is that when we think somebody is gone, but they're there begins this contraction and tightening in your throat and your body, because you're telling yourself a lie, because they're actually there. They're just not there in body anymore. So it's like there's this lie that creates this contraction. And when we ask ourselves a few questions, when we actually turn towards the possibility that, oh, wow, they're still around, and actually we're entities too, we just are occupying our bodies right now. It just creates a totally different possibility. And entities, so this was before I even knew about Access. I don't even think Access had been created yet. And I found Access over 20 years ago, and Talk to the Entities hadn't been created yet. But I went to a lot of the classes that Shannon taught. Gary had really urged her to start teaching classes and communicating with spirits. And back then, like, everything was so significant and everything was so hard work in my world around this stuff. And she really opened the door to the ease of communicating and to the vastness of the spirit kingdom. I mean, it's so cool because she continues to explore what else there is. We've got a kingdom of the physical world that goes all the way down to microbes and bacteria and things that you can't see. There's a similar variety in the spirit kingdom that we learn and we start to go into in the beginning class, which is really cool. And there's really 4 basic things that we do with spirits. We can clear them, we can communicate with them, we can receive from them, and we can cooperate with them. And actually, clearing is super easy. Super easy. Communicating can be really easy, especially with the beginning class. You get a communication flow chart that makes it really easy. So if you don't know what question to ask, you can follow along the flow chart, and it just makes communication super easy. And then the receiving aspect, wow, I don't know how to describe, how do you describe the best tiramisu or dipping in a pool that's filled by, a waterfall somewhere in Hawaii? You have to experience it. But it's It's such an amazing peace, space, beauty, kindness. Like, it's not the fear and the creepy stuff that most people think about. And there is some of that too. There's a little bit of that, but that's not been most of my experience. Your point of view will create your reality with it. So if you think ghosts are creepy and scary and they're going to come and get you, you might want to learn the tools so that you can handle those that show up with ease. Let's see. So, like, that's just a little background. Does anybody have any questions to start off with? I think you're muted. No, you're not, but maybe your headset's not working. No, don't hear you yet.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned some of the things that we can do with entities being clearing them, communicating, receiving, and cooperating. What does it mean to cooperate with an entity, and why would we choose to do that?
Well, cooperating is like working together to create something. And a long, long time ago, when I first got the tools, I was traveling for business, and it was a show that I wanted buyers to come to my booth and place orders. And when I got to the hotel room was so filled with entities. It was like smoky in there. It looked like somebody had been smoking. It was totally smoky. And I knew, okay, smoky means entities. So, and it was a non-smoking room. It didn't smell like smoke. It just was cloudy. So I cleared and cleared, and a lot of them left, but still there were some left. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And I called my husband at the time, and he's like, oh yeah, you can give them a job. So I was like, okay, all you entities, go to all the buyers who are coming to this show and tell them to come by my booth and place an order. And then they all left. And the next day, from the opening of the show, everybody flooded toward my booth to place an order. And I had so many people waiting for me to place orders. It was crazy. I'd never experienced anything like that before. So that's a cooperation. You can ask them to do things for you, and they will.
So how did you know that they were, so you said smoke is a sign that entities are in there, but how did you know that you had cleared them or that there were still some lingering? And then how did you know when they were gone when you gave them a job?
How do you know anything? So part of it is trusting that you know. And like the fog started clearing, but I could still sense that there were beings there. And so I gave him a job, and then it was clear and calm in my room so I could sleep.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And like one of the cool things about the Talk to the Entities curriculum is it takes we've already said the significance, but there's also like this thing where you think that entities are bigger and greater and more powerful than you. And it puts it into perspective. Entities are just like people. There's smart people, stupid people, funny people, mean people. There's all kinds of people, but they're just people, or they were. And because they don't have a body doesn't make them stronger or more powerful than you. each one of you are infinite beings. And if you would like to access those infinite capacities that you have, you can choose it. And if you want to make something outside of you greater than you and you want to contract yourself, you can choose that too. But it's not true. It's just a choice that we make. So everything that doesn't allow you all to claim and own what you know, even if it makes you feel like you're going crazy, or even if other people don't understand, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys, poets, and beyonds. And I think everybody here knows the access clearing statement, but if you don't, that was the access clearing statement. And you can check out what it means on theclearingstatement.com or my website. Sorry, my YouTube channel. Other questions?
Looks like Sarah put one in the chat.
Oh, could you read it? I don't have my reading glasses on.
Yeah, she says, so I moved into a new place and there was / is a ghost who was smoking. I told them to stop and I think they did, but can I ask them to clean the air in here?
Oh, well, usually when there's a smoking entity, there is the smoke scent. So when you clear them, that usually goes away. So I wonder if he just stopped smoking, but he's still there, or she. So yeah, what else can you do? And the weird thing with this is there's no right answer and no one way to handle spirits. Just like, little kids, sometimes you give them a lollipop and they do what you want them to do. Sometimes you have to spend time with them. Sometimes, it depends on what's required to get them to go. Did she leave?
Sarah's still here.
Oh. Um,
I'm
oh,
just driving, but thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
yeah. Yeah. And we always think the worst when it's a ghost. We think, oh, they're gonna haunt me, they want something from me, but that's not a question. And a question would be, what's up? What are you doing? Do you know you don't have a body anymore? Do you want to communicate something with me or with somebody else? And if they want to communicate with somebody else and they want you to do the job for them, you can ask them to pay you. And any other questions? Is that bringing up any questions for anyone?
Shamshad wrote another question in the chat. She says, do you have any other examples where you asked entities to contribute and they did?
Oh yeah, I have lots of them. Let's see. I mean, there've been all kinds of things where entities have come to me and they want me to give a message to somebody, and I learned from Shannon to say, okay, I'll do it if you pay me. And so I give the message, and then maybe somebody signs up for a class, or somebody buys a big piece of jewelry, or money just comes into my life in some strange and magical way. So those things show up all the time. And the sense of peace, like that to me, like I thought I was peaceful, I thought I was happy, but there's like this deep, 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 deep well of peace that comes from facilitating talk to the entities type of work. I think I shared this on my YouTube channel. I was doing a facelift on somebody and she was talking about having shoulder pain. And so I just started asking her questions about it. She'd been to acupuncturists and massage therapists and it wouldn't go away. And I was like, is it an entity? She said, oh, it is. And, through the facilitation, she got that this was a family member who had passed and wanted to give her something that she had been pushing away and resisting and had created shoulder pain. And so I was like, well, let's just lower our barriers and receive it. And it was the most blissful wave of amazing energy pouring into her body and spilling over to mine. And it was awesome. And her shoulder pain went away and never came back. So there's payment and there's payment and there's expansive possibilities that you get to be a part of. That's really cool. I remember also on a call that I had last year, maybe it was just a regular talk to the entities intro. There was a woman who was afraid of some entity that was up in the attic when she was a little kid. And because time isn't real, we went back to when she was a kid and we communicated with that entity. And it turned out it was like a grandfather type entity. And he was there to protect her. And so all the years that she had been carrying this fear and this not wanting to go there melted. And like the stress that came off of her body, it was amazing. So I wonder what we're all misidentifying with our points of view of entities and what we can step into and start creating and receiving if you're willing to dig a little deeper. I do have a bunch of different possibilities coming up. There's a house clearing, A to Z. That's a telecall that's tomorrow around the same time. And anybody can join it. You don't have any prerequisites that are required. So anyone can learn. This is really great also for people who are real estate agents or stagers, or, just anybody. If you travel and you find that there are ghosts in your hotel room, all of these tools will help with that kind of situation. Cars, rental cars, airplanes. I mean, it's amazing how much clearing entities helps with travel. And like delays on your flights, and clearing entities, like all of a sudden the delay is gone and you're ready to go. Also, like babies crying, a lot of times babies crying on an airplane has to do with entities. So you can clear that and get a nice, easy, smooth ride. And then there's the intro and the beginning class coming up next weekend. And those can be done in person or online. What other questions are there? We have a couple minutes left. Anyone else have a question? Yeah.
Do
you
you?
are.
I am from India basically, and now I'm in Canada on a vacation.
Oh,
If you would like me to promote your workshops in India, do let me know.
oh, I'd love that. Sure.
I was connected to many CFs in India.
Amazing. Thank you.
I'll shoot you an email.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you.
But no questions about entities?
I did ask that do you have any examples? But there was this thing, I saw this video today of yours, where you had asked entities to bring clients. So one of the things which came up for me was, I mean, I'm being straight. Were you not projecting on them to bring clients?
Well, they have choice. And that's the thing with talk to the entities is this is a facilitation. I don't clear an entity that, sorry, this talking in your background. You can't make an entity do something that they don't want to do, just like you're not going to do something you don't want to do. And so even facilitating in the clearing is asking them, who are you? Who were you before this? Who were you before that? And you start to give them awareness of, oh, wow, I've been other things. I've been other things before that. Oh my gosh, what do I want to be in the future? So you're facilitating them to choose. And same with people, you can facilitate them to choose. But they're not going to do something they don't want to do. And there are entities who want to help you. There are entities who are interested in spreading consciousness and creating ease. And then there are probably entities who, are the opposite. But who are you dealing with? Who are you asking for? And what can you create when you use your awareness? So I really look at talk to the entities as one of the greatest ways to build that muscle of awareness, to know what you know, to start trusting you more than anything else. It's because, most people don't see them. I don't necessarily see them. Sometimes out of the corner of my eye, I'll see something. But I get downloads, and it's different. Everybody gets it differently. And so we all have to learn how we get our awareness and to build that muscle so that you can use it for creating your life instead of having it work against you. Any other questions?
You've named some random things that you say could be ghosts, like smoking, shoulder pain, the babies crying on an airplane. How do you know when to ask? I mean, how do you know what the signs of entities are? It's all about questions, or
Yeah, and
those don't seem connected at all, in my mind.
I know. Yeah. Well, it's like as you build your awareness, you just start to know and you trust that feather light feeling. And so, for me, working with this for so long, I just get the sense, oh, is that an entity? Yes, no. If you think, oh, is this an entity? It usually is. Because when it's not an entity, you don't have that question in your head. It just doesn't come up, So you're not crazy. You're not making it up. It is what it is. And you ask, what is this? Is this an entity? And you go from there. That's a great question. Yes.
I have a question if there's time.
Yeah.
So when I moved into this place, I also noticed that I started getting lower back pain. So I think what I'm understanding is just to ask, like, whose is this? Right. And then
well, you can start off with, is it yours? Is the back pain yours?
Okay.
Awareness.
Okay. And the other thing about, I also have a friend who burned their hand like almost a year ago, and it's not healing. And it was at a time that he was like feeling very low vibration, like was really in a bad way. And my sense is that like, and I listened to the Talk to the Entities book.
Mhm.
And Annie had recommended it to me actually. So thank you, Annie. And then I thought this friend of mine, I think that he has an entity attached to him and it's like somehow manifesting that way. That is my sense. And does it matter if I say anything to him, my friend, or is it more I can just like talk to the entities?
Well, that's where it
Right.
gets tricky. He may be vested in holding on to this thing. So you can ask in your head, truth, is he willing to have this change? When I'm on an airplane and there's a baby and everybody in the airplane is annoyed, I can feel their annoyance more than the baby is being annoyed, being annoying. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
for me, it's better to just clear that entity so that everybody else calms down because it makes my life easier. You don't do entity stuff on people if they're not asking for it.
Okay. So I would ask his permission.
Yeah, and if he has to be open to it, I guess. You might
Yeah.
want to ask yourself, is he willing to have this change before you ask him? Because sometimes people will say, yeah, but they're not. And so you'll work really hard to try to create
Yeah.
a change. Is he willing? I get a no.
You
But
get a note. Yeah.
it could change,
Guys. Yeah.
that's just
Yeah. I
right
think
now.
he's a little attached to it.
Yeah. And like what's right about that? Like maybe it gives him, an out for something.
Yeah.
So, nobody's wrong and nobody's right.
Yeah.
And what's possible is really the question.
Yeah.
Julie, when you clear the entity off of the baby, are you asking the baby's permission?
I usually ask, is that an entity? And if I get yes, I clear it because it's causing annoyance to everybody on the airplane. The baby doesn't, the baby's just reacting to the entity. Yeah.
And so her friend just might be, using that as an excuse for something.
Yeah, I once tried clearing an entity off of a participant in a foundation class, and she did not want to let it go. And at lunchtime, she left
Oh,
and took her manual and never paid for the class because back then I didn't know to collect up front. And she didn't speak to me for 3 years.
oh,
So I don't recommend, forcing somebody. Oh, hi. Just wrapping up. Okay, everyone. Thank you for your questions. And I hope to see you on some future calls so I can share some of these amazing tools. They're very powerful. They're very easy. Anybody can learn, even kids. So don't be scared. Be scary, powerful.
thank you, Julie. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.